he lives with a defeated woman. Seriously.
I thought he was going to go so deep with it.
What good is that going to be? That's not helpful.
And you guys are one. So if you defeat her, you defeat yourself.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Wilson Brothers channel. Probably don't recognize me, but this is Don Parmesan, starring with the boys, David and Isaac.
Guys.
And we are about to react to Jordan Peterson with George Janko. You can't win an argument with your husband or wife. Let's check it out.
George Janko. I know you guys are
sound
gonna
like a Valley Boy Italian. You're like George Janko.
What's up, Georgie boy?
All right, this is gonna be interesting.
Whoa. We said all right at the same time.
All right,
We
gotta
are
drink a
related
soda
by-
pop.
We are related by blood.
Not by personality.
Have you ever won an argument with your wife? I don't know. We'll save it for later.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I don't
Let's see
think
what he
you
has to
ever
say
really
first.
win.
You guys are going to be talking most of this because you guys are married.
Isaac's like, I'm gonna bow out into the abyss.
I'll say some funny one-liners to keep the audience entertained.
One of the things my wife and I learned to do, and we literally do this, is if we're caught on the horns of a dilemma and we can't get out of it, we'll stop arguing if we have enough sense. Because, if you get angry, both of you want to win, and that's not helpful. You can't, that's another thing to know. You cannot win an argument with your husband. And he can't win a husband can't win an argument with his wife. Not unless he wants to defeat her, in which case...
He defeats himself.
Well, he lives with a defeated woman. Seriously.
I thought he was going to go so deep with it.
What good is that going to be? That's not helpful.
And you guys are one. So if you defeat her, you defeat yourself.
Well, not least because now you're living with someone who's defeated and bitter.
It's so interesting because I know, like, anytime my wife and I will have like a disagreement or something will happen and she'll come to me, like, my wife is one of the more tenderhearted people. That's one of the main things that like really attracted me to her. She's just such a gentle soul. And she'll come to me like so humble and like, man, I can't tell you how many times I've just like teared up, like, especially looking back at the conversation and thinking like, the idea of like seeing my woman defeated, my wife, like in a place of like discouragement or not like feeling empowered, like, man, that there's very few things in my life.
Do you feel
that
emasculated by that?
It just breaks me down really badly because I'm like, I feel that in life, like when you get to heaven, because I'm a believer, you'll be asked, obviously if you were married and have children, are they better than what they were when I gave them to you? And how many people did you bring with you? Those are going to be like
hopefully
the two.
your kid was, because they were not even born.
Did you learn to love?
Hopefully there's something.
Did you learn to love?
Well, it's a seed, right? I mean, he gave you something, right? Like, yeah. So, I mean, I just, anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it just, again, like seeing my wife in that state of like not being her full self, like even the thought of it, like I've said to her more times than I can count. So it's a good point, man.
Yeah, but even what he's saying about, because I agree with you. I mean, what you're saying, I get that. Also, I'm thinking about my most heated arguments with my wife.
Yeah.
It's never been to convince the other because you're always set on your point. It is literally because you have to win, and then it ends up being you're destroying the other person that moment.
Yeah,
and then you
like,
live with a defeated spouse.
It's like
but you gain
Mortal
nothing.
Kombat, bro.
But it's so funny
you
because
still have to sleep. You still have to sleep next to him. You still have to sleep next to him after you argue.
Or you sleep on the couch, which I've only slept on the couch one time in my entire marriage, but that was by choice. It wasn't because she kicked me out. She's never kicked me out.
My wife and I both sleep on the couch because it's so comfortable, and we watch movies before we go to bed.
I know.
We both laugh for like if anyone knew, we don't like sleep in our bed. Like,
I mean,
we just
I'm not
enjoy
talking
it.
about sleeping on the couch just because of pleasure.
No, I know.
I'm talking about
you're in
like
trouble. You're in the doghouse.
Walk of shame.
I know none of
downstairs.
this.
That's never happened to me.
I know
In your
none of
dreams,
this.
You have the walk of shame.
Well, because my wife, I mean, we have a good enough relationship. She doesn't want that, right? You don't go to bed angry. It's one of the rules.
we've gotten good at that.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because anyway, play the tape. But
Yeah,
it's
what
an
he's
interesting
saying
perspective.
makes a lot of sense.
It's not helpful. You can't win an argument. What you have to do, you can't stomp around and insist that you were right. Look, this happens to couples all the time. So imagine that one person in the couple is better at verbal disputes than the other. That doesn't mean they're smarter, and it doesn't mean that they're more
I just said
correct.
this. You're just good at your skill of talking.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so one of the things you want to do...
He's so proud of himself.
So imagine...
He's like,
in a
Jordan Peterson
relationship
agrees with me.
that... So what do you want to do about that? If you happen to be the person who's better at making verbal arguments, well, one of the things you want to do is, if your wife has a problem with you, you want to help her make her argument. Just on the off chance that she's got something to say. Because maybe she's right, and it's going to be in her interest to straighten you out if she has any sense. And it would be in your interest to listen.
Yeah.
And so That's part of giving the devil, that's part of loving your enemy. That's part of giving the devil his due. It's like, you want to find out. You want to find out so you don't have to bring the trouble forward.
We're getting deep.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you look at yourself as an individual, you're no longer that when you get married. Because you're bringing, you can't. So it's interesting. Let me back up. When you get married or you're in a relationship, you can't look to that other person to make you happy or whole. You have to be that on your own.
Yeah.
Like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith are probably the most toxic, worst example of a relationship. But he said something a long time ago
He's a
that
cuck.
Sure. He made a comment that basically he stated, you can't find happiness in that other person, right? Like you have to be whole in and of
I
yourself.
just love everything you're saying is good. I just love how you're like, they're the most toxic relationship. I was like, yeah, 'cause he's like,
I mean, yeah, it seems that way, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not happy, whatever
It's
it
no
is.
longer
but
the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's the Fresh
yeah,
Prince of
that was
Cuck.
devastating.
sorry,
Sorry,
continue
go
what you're saying.
Oh my God. No. Anyway, you can't look for that person to make you whole and happy, right? You have to be that in and of yourself. But when you get married, you're no longer that individual. You're now a union, right?
Yeah.
So it makes a ton of sense. It's like, why would I tear down a part of my union to make myself feel better when we're one? We're the same team. I mean, my wife, even early on, like you get in early disputes in marriage, like you have to remind each other, like, hey, we're on the same team here. We want the same thing. And she's had to do that for me. I mean, I'm a hard-headed Italian. You know what I mean? When I get in my mode, it's like, hey, what are you talking about? And she's like, this.
Now you're the cuck.
Shut up. I'm married, bro. I'm actually married. You're not even married.
Boom!
I'm actually
Hey,
married.
I'd never made that claim.
No, but you're calling me that when I'm actually married and very monogamous. I will say this on a serious note. The number one thing that I absolutely hate, my wife and I are on the same page. I hate it when couples or old white men say that if you want to live a good life, boy, you got to remember the woman's always right. No, it drives me nuts because it emasculates a man and strips him of his value and his actually authority in the relationship as well, because it's not either one always being right. It's coming together and becoming stronger together and understanding that at times one of you will be right and the other won't, but it's seeking to understand.
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
If you think your wife's always right,
No,
bro,
I'm not going to say that.
please don't.
You don't
Let's go
always
get
need to
spicy.
win the battle to win the war. There's times my wife feels a certain way about something, and I know it's just not that serious in the long run, and no problem. So there's times where winning an argument is saying, yeah, no problem, and moving on, because there's just topics that they don't carry enough weight in the long run, and it's important enough to her, where for me, it's just, it may not be that big of a deal.
No, it's about how weighted it is. If it's a smaller issue,
How do you decide
it's
that,
about,
though?
No, but what I'm saying is, if I feel very strongly about something and I feel like this is something we should be doing, I'll give you an example. It's not my example. If I feel strongly that we shouldn't go to a specific church, or if I feel
see, that's very different.
Or if I feel strongly that I should go into this business and she doesn't, we talk about it and we figure out the best solution together.
Yeah, that's a very
if I'm
different
like,
perspective.
well, my wife said I shouldn't. But some men truly believe that, just purely happy wife, happy life. And they think that that's good. You need your wife to be happy. But if you think that her being happy is dependent on you always saying that she is right and affirming that in front of other people, then it makes it seem like you have no legs as a man. And so it's a balance, right? And I've always said we're a partnership. There's times I'm right. There's times she's right. There's times she apologizes to me because she realized that she was talking out of a specific hurt and therefore was wrong in the moment. There's times I apologize because I'm like, dang, I was a dick. It's just, you have to understand that it's not, neither of you can put your place as, hey, I'm above and the other person's always wrong.
I mean, my wife, like, there was an occasion where she made a comment, and she was totally joking in front of my folks. And later on, she was like, hey, I thought about that. Probably shouldn't have said that. And I'm really sorry. Yeah. And it wasn't really even a big deal to me in the moment because, like, my family, it was something they always joke about. But later on, when she said it to me, it just meant so much that she had the wherewithal to be like, hey, like that probably wasn't right to you as a man and the leader of our family. And again, it was a really small thing. So like the fact that she even felt that gave me more confidence in her, right? So that she's like
character.
Yeah, and so she sees what she's saying and doing, and she's thinking about it. And like again, you want to look for a woman that understands and has perspective of what real leadership looks like. And there's been times where my wife's had to ask me like, hey, I need you to look at this situation. I need you to lead us in this. And she's asked me to step up in that.
I love that.
And that's a challenge that as a woman you need.
I love that. When a woman has the ability to say, hey, I need you to lead in this area, it can even be small or big. That is so attractive as a man because the man's like, wow, now I can prove myself to my woman. It's just an innate thing. But I will say, kind of a piggyback off of the other statement I said about how, they're both right at different times. Men need to listen to their wives more.
Yeah.
And so I will say that because there has been many times that I will make the dumbest mistake and I was just so hyped up, passionate about this, then I lost so much money or something. And my wife will look at me and be like, I told you I didn't think that was a good idea. But in that moment, I didn't have the wherewithal to actually value her opinion. I just was like, babe, I just feel like we have to do this. And I did it without taking into consideration what she thought. Yeah. So men, listen to your wives. And again, arguing, we're always going to argue. It's the end of, it's just going to happen.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. And Isaac apparently said, don't be a cuck.
I mean, yeah, don't be a cuck. When it comes to men and women dynamics, husband and wife, I'm not married, so I'm going to come at this from a relationship perspective real quick before we end. It's always about wanting to build a bridge of connection.
Yes.
How can we build this bridge together and not sacrifice? Maybe we might agree to disagree on a lot of things. Doesn't mean that we have to burn each other's bridges down or burn the bridge down that connects us in order to feel right, because we both suffer when the bridge is burning. We can't cross it and connect on that path. So for me, it's always about sitting down and saying, "Hey, this was my girlfriend that I had a while back." We always had that conversation when we had an argument. Was why are we not connecting? What's causing us to feel disconnected right now? And how do we build that bridge back?
I think it's really important to understand in a situation when you're talking to someone, if you can take a step back and just for a moment say, what is this person experiencing or feeling? What am I projecting to them? More times than not, that takes away a lot of the heat in the conversation or the argument. And it makes you take a step back and be like, okay, yeah, I can understand why they're feeling this way. Maybe they're insecure about something and I'm pressing on their toes in that area. Or maybe this is something in the past. I didn't step up. And now I'm saying, hey, I want to do this again. And they're like, whoa, hold on a second. Like last time this didn't go so well. So I think a lot of times it's just understanding what their perspective is. Because again, perception is reality, but only to the one that views it. So you have to understand sometimes other people are viewing differently and just take a step back to hear that and see it. And I remember a while back, an old mentor of mine, he had talked about one of the ways you can view a situation is you see yourself in that person, take a third perspective and sit over here and then view what's happening between those two people, completely unbiased. And a lot of times that can help you take the emotion away, even if it's after the fact and you need to review it in your mind and then come back to it later and talk with them. But anyway.
This is good stuff.
One
Man,
last.
Be strong. Make your woman feel safe. We love you. See you on the next video.
Peace.
Peace.